I hope this Christmas you have a child in your life, or children, or grandchildren, or maybe some of you great-grandchildren, to pick up on the joy that children have at this time of year. They just, in the past couple of weeks, they just couldn't wait for today. And they're just so excited about the event of Christmas and the presents and the celebration. What happened in our lives? Do you have that Christmas joy? Usually as we age, we lose some of that. And why is that? I'm always telling you to read the scriptures, but always look for the deeper meaning. The first reading today from Isaiah the prophet said, "For the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders and the rod of their oppressors." Now granted, Isaiah was talking about the relationship among countries, but think about that in your own life. What is the yoke on your the yoke of your burden, the bar across your shoulders, and the rod of your oppressors? Because usually as we grow up, our experiences of life, they take away some of the joy that we had as children. Could be health issues or relationship problems or work problems and so on, that make that this time of year isn't always happy and joyful for everyone. For some, it's quite oppressive. It's a heavy burden that we have to carry just to get through these days. And what happens as we carry that burden? Our lives usually become smaller and smaller and smaller. Many times the experiences of life, the hardships, the burdens, make our hearts shrink. And we look at others out of jealousy. How come I can't have what they have? How come I can't experience what they're experiencing? And our hearts get smaller, we get cynical, we get depressed, and the burden just weighs us down, and we can't seem to get out of that. I tried to think of an example that might show that. So, faithful Michael Acolyte, if you would show us this. That's the Grinch in us. If you're not familiar with Dr. Seuss' book, the Grinch lived up 3,000 feet above the village of Who on Mount Crumpit. And for 53 years, he watched the people in the village of Who celebrate Christmas and how happy and joyful they were. And the more he watched them, the smaller his heart became out of jealousy and disgust. So he decided that he's going to ruin their Christmas. So while they were sleeping on Christmas Eve, he went down, he stole all their presents, their decorations, their food, and he went back up the mountain, waiting for Christmas morning when he thought he would hear all the boo-hooings. But he heard the joy, and he could not understand how they could celebrate without all the decorations, the food, the presents. And then he saw them joined together in a circle, holding hands in the presence of the great light, realizing they didn't need all that stuff because they had each other. And that brought them the joy of Christmas. That's the scriptures today. I mentioned earlier, did you hear the gospel? The first thing the angel said to the shepherds is, "Do not be afraid." I think that's one of our main problems in our growth with Christ is we're afraid. We're afraid of this God being made human. Why are we afraid? Well, maybe because we'll have to change our lives. Maybe it's because Jesus is asking something of us that we don't want to give or to go there. But it is that presence of that light, the Spirit of Christmas, that comes into our lives that can open up our hearts. Rather than to be jealous of others and envious and all of those feelings, our hearts would grow out of gratitude to share life with those around us. That's our goal with Christmas. That's what will bring us the joy. We can't do it ourselves. We have to let this Jesus into our lives. Because as you know, Christmas isn't about his birth 2,000 years ago. It's about the possibility that we would let his rebirth happen in us today. If that happens, then we'll celebrate Christmas, we'll share some of that joy. And this is what Dr. Seuss says. And the Grinch, with a Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling, how could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. Christmas Day is in our grasp so long as we have hands to clasp. Christmas Day will always be just as long as we have we. May the Christmas joy grow in all of our hearts. Thank you for watching the Christmas homily here at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish. We wish you a very Merry Christmas and a blessed holiday season. Please, you're invited to join us for weekend liturgy anytime you might be in the area. Or you can visit us always at mysaintelizabeth.com or watch us on Facebook. Thank you again, and blessed Christmas.